A civilian passenger airliner and military helicopter have crashed over Washington, D.C. We already have a lot of details, so let's jump right into it. The civilian aircraft was a CRJ-700 operated by PSA Airlines, which is a subsidiary of American Airlines. The plane is carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew, and as of this reporting, there's been no survivors pulled from the water. The flight took off from Wichita, Kansas, en route for Washington, D.C. The other aircraft involved was an Army UH-60 Blackhawk helicopter. It was carrying 3 crew members on board, none of which have been recovered. To understand the circumstances of this accident, we first need to understand a bit about the airspace around Washington, D.C. Ronald Reagan Washington National is situated on the Potomac River just across from the American Capitol buildings. It's covered by Class B airspace, which is reserved only for the busiest or most important airspace in the country. This airspace is made even trickier by the permanently restricted airspace over the National Mall. This means as planes are taking off or landing, they have to be directed so they don't break this airspace. With all the traffic and the tricky airspace, that means the air traffic controllers need to be constantly on their game. As Flight 5342 approached the airport, the air traffic controllers asked them to switch their runway from runway 1 to runway 33.
Tower 5342 on Mount Vernon visual runway 1.
Lucia 5342, Washington Tower 1 star 32017, gust 25, you check runway 33.
This is a very standard procedure and helps air traffic controllers keep planes separated in busy airspace. After rerunning some landing performance calculations, the pilots agreed to the runway change and then were cleared to land.
Yeah, we can do 33 for Blue 6342.
Lucia 5342, at the Wilson Bridge, change to turn for runway 33, runway 33, clear to land.
Change to runway 33, runway 33 for land, Blue 6342.
Outside of this minor procedure, the rest of the approach was totally normal, with nothing out of the ordinary. But they didn't know about the unseen Blackhawk helicopter coming the other way. This helicopter is operated by the Priority Air Transport Department of the US Army. These aircraft are normally reserved for carrying VIPs, such as Army generals. However, this flight was confirmed to only be a training flight at a Fort Belvoir, which is just southwest of the capital. In the United States, all aircraft flying within certain control zones, especially Class B airspace, are required to have an ADS-B transponder. These transponders use a GPS signal to transmit the location of the aircraft at all times. This allows air traffic controllers to track and control aircraft in their airspace. Before ADS-B, aircraft were equipped with a Mode C transponder, which provided much of the same information but at a much lower level of accuracy. The other benefit of ADS-B is that all aircraft can see the location of any other aircraft equipped with ADS-B, which is something that was not possible with Mode C transponders. But there's a catch. The US military has broad authority to choose when they want to turn off their ADS-B transponders. This is principally for homeland security or law enforcement purposes when they don't want to give away the location of their aircraft. Leading up to the accident, none of the flight tracking websites received ADS-B data from the helicopter. However, some of them were receiving the lower quality Mode C information. Had that helicopter been broadcasting ADS-B data, the airliner likely would have seen them and taken evasive action. It's also believed that the helicopter had the TCAS system, which is generally found on airliners, to provide collision avoidance. However, this system is inhibited under 1,000 feet, meaning neither plane would have gotten a warning. It's inhibited under 1,000 feet to prevent the system from telling the pilot to descend into the ground. But there's still more, because the air traffic controller saw that helicopter. Air traffic controllers control 2 types of aircraft: IFR, Instrument Flight Rules aircraft, and VFR, Visual Flight Rules aircraft. A plane flying in Instrument Flight Rules is told by the air traffic controllers exactly where to fly. This is especially important in poor weather when the pilots may not be able to see anything out the windows at all. They're almost entirely dependent on the air traffic controllers. Even in good weather, airliners always fly under IFR. This makes the flight more comfortable, more expedient, and even safer. A Visual Flight Rules aircraft operates differently, even in a control zone. These are often smaller aircraft or aircraft that need to move around within a control zone without requesting direct permission for each movement. An example of this might be a news or traffic helicopter that needs to move around in an area, but doesn't need to necessarily bother the air traffic controller whenever they need to move around. However, an air traffic controller still has the power to tell that plane where to go or to stay out of certain areas. That's why it's so important that aircraft are equipped with location reporting information, such as an ADS-B transponder or Mode C. This allows air traffic controllers to provide separation, where they monitor all air traffic in the area and vector aircraft so they don't conflict. In this accident, it appears the helicopter was operating as a VFR aircraft, performing their own navigation along the Potomac River. Moments before the accident, the air traffic controllers noticed the conflict and asked if the helicopter had the CRJ in sight.
At 25, get the CRJ in sight. At 25, have fun, CRJ.
This club has a aircraft in sight, press separation.
He replies that the CRJ is in sight and that he's expecting the air traffic controller to provide separation. Tragically, only 10 seconds later, the 2 aircraft collide midair. At the moment of impact, air traffic control is transmitting, allowing you to hear alarm bells, presumably from the lack of separation.
Support 72 Washington Tower, 1 star, 32017.
This accident raises some serious questions. Why did the helicopter have its ADS-B transponder turned off for a simple training flight that would have no impact on homeland security? Was that a choice, or was that a maintenance issue? Did the helicopter mistake the CRJ for another airplane that was landing at the same time and not realize how close they actually were? And why weren't the air traffic controllers keeping a closer eye on the helicopter and providing that separation that they're supposed to? And with that airspace being so busy and so complex, are those air traffic controllers overworked? Or maybe there's another way to structure that airspace. Even the president has already weighed in on this tragedy, so we're going to get more details very soon, so be sure to hit subscribe to be the first in line.